The content I'm going to talk to you today about mentoring is not specific to Explore. It's not specific to Challenge or Discover. It's fairly universal, right? If you want to be a mentor, it applies to any of the divisions you want to work with. So we're just going to basically go through what it means to be a mentor. Mentors essentially are a more hands-on support system for schools or teams, depending on whether they run it as a team, out of school, after school club, or in school. You're supporting the team coach deliver the content, or you're supporting the team in terms of, as they're working through the program, the 10 or the 12 sessions, depending on which one you're doing, you're there to help support, whether that be technical support, if you can be technical support. Not everyone can, that's fine. You might just be a sounding board for ideas, because all of them will be thinking about their solutions to the problem that they're going to be doing. So they're going to want to articulate those ideas to get your feedback, to see what they need to be changing on it. It could be that you're providing them with constructive feedback on their ideas, especially in Challenge, when they're having to prepare to go to the tournaments and to be presenting to judges. They can be like the pretend judges in their prep stage to give them that constructive feedback to what they can be doing better to be able to score maximum points. It could also be to give them industry insight from wherever you work. And it doesn't matter what your background at all. You could be working in HR, you could be doing anything. Industry knowledge and exposure is really beneficial to these young people from all of the age divisions, because it means that they can see the next steps for them. And all of the stuff they do, STEM or otherwise, will be a useful 21st century workplace skill. So it's really important they know that there's all these options available. I remember when I was at school and our careers advice was shocking, and I had no concept about what I could possibly do. So the more exposure they get to industry in any form, the better in my books. And it's also encouraging them to find their own solutions. So we want them to be working independently, of course, but they need support to get those skills to do that. So you're encouraging them to do that. And when I come to top tips in a minute, you'll see how you can do that without being too guiding, if that makes sense. But ultimately, with all of the volunteer roles, it's this friendly, supportive, encouraging role model, essentially, that we're working with the teams. There obviously are some commitments. Now, I'd say this is a more hands-on role. It absolutely is, because it's not just a one-off event like a judge or a referee or a reviewer, for example, would be doing. There's more involved with mentoring because of the time commitments. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be available every single week of every single month. Absolutely not. It just means that you're more likely to have more involvement with the school. And that's something that becomes a relationship with the school and the mentor. You can decide, I've got 2 Mondays a month that I can give to doing this. Great, that will slot in with the school, or whatever it ends up being. So it doesn't mean you have to have huge amounts of time to give. Everyone works, everyone's got other commitments, but there is an added commitment there to mentoring. It can be flexible. It might mean that you, I don't know, say you normally go and visit a school on a Friday afternoon, but you've got something work commitment-wise, it doesn't matter. You're not held to a contract to go and help them every single time. It is a flexible arrangement and a supportive arrangement. It can also be virtual. Probably the only positive coming out of the pandemic is we've learned to be flexible with how we work and hybrid with how we work. So we noticed a lot of the early mentors that started really in the pandemic was that they would do it, a Scottish-based volunteer would support a school down in Plymouth, for example. And you can do that now virtually. You don't have to be there physically in person to be supportive. So you could work with schools from all over the country if you were happy to work virtually. Some people prefer to do it in person, obviously. And it's also being considerate that if you're working with a school that's doing a class pack that's obviously delivered during the school day, during curriculum time, but it might be that you're supporting an after-school group or even a weekend, home ed group or whatever it might be. So when we talk about how we link you up in a minute, it's just being mindful that the schools run them in different ways, and so you might be needed for different times. Obviously, you're committed to supporting both the coach and the mentor as well to reach their potential. So you're not there to do everything for them, but you're committed to being there as a supportive role model for both the coach and the team. As I mentioned earlier, for mentors, you have to be DBS checked because you will be working very closely with the students. And after this, we've got lots of information to share with you, including the link to how you can get DBS checked for free via STEM Ambassador Hub if you're not already. And obviously completing the IET mandatory training modules, which again will be shared with you. But just to flag what mentors are not, they are not expected to run the sessions. You might agree to do that with them. That's your choice and the school's choice. I wouldn't recommend it. That's a big commitment. But you're not expected to take the place of the team coach and deliver the sessions. You're there in a supportive role. You're also not expected to be experts in everything. So what you've had today gives you more of an insight than any other mentor would potentially have had. You don't need to know things First Second League. You're essentially going on the journey with the teams to discover and to support them as they are discovering First Second League. The activities we've got on here and in the other rooms are just to give you a little bit more exposure to what the kids are doing through the use of the robotics side of things. You do not need to be an expert on it. The idea is that the children and the teams and the schools are doing the work, you're there to support. Yes, it helps, but it's not essential. And you're obviously not allowed to complete the work for the teams. We've been to some regionals before where they've got really enthusiastic young mentors with the teams and they are the ones doing the robots. Not allowed. You're there to support, not do. Top tips. Kind of reiterates what were said in the other sessions, I think, today, but using this positive feedback, this positive reinforcement and encouragement, but open-ended questions again, really, really important to encourage children to problem solve. How could you do that differently? Or what do you think has gone wrong there so they can start the cogs turning? They just need a couple of prompts with some open questions to get them thinking to solve it independently. This positive feedback, I always refer back to the judging rubrics on this. I always think it's really important to have a good job and think about this you've done really, really well, but we also need what next? Like think about doing this as well. So yes, obviously encourage, but give next steps for them as well. Challenge them to expand their ideas. So if you're the sounding board for them and they've pitched an idea for their solution, for example, you could then say, that was fantastic. What if this happened? What if you did this? And then it just, again, it plants that seed, it starts the cogs whirring. You're not there to give them the ideas or the solutions, you're there to challenge them to come up with it themselves. The resources that are available for all the volunteer roles will be beneficial for a mentor because you'll know what the children and the teams are going to face at the events that they go to. So knowing the judging materials, knowing the refereeing materials, knowing the reviewing materials, for example, having copies of the team meeting guide and the engineering notebooks, which we're going to share digitally after this, will be beneficial because you'll know what they've got access to help support them through that journey. So if they get stuck, you're like, oh, well, we've got this resource we can look at. We've got the videos we can look at. We've got the website we can look at. So there's lots of things that if you are aware of, you can help support them to access as well. And always enjoy the experience. By being a mentor, you're far more involved in this journey and you'll see the progression. And yes, it's really fantastic at an event. You see the final polished version of what these teams and students have come up with. But by going through the journey as a mentor with them, it's so rewarding because you see, you know, especially if you're doing it in class, you see these kids, oh, I don't like Lego, oh no, I'm not doing that, it's way too difficult. But by the end, because of your input and the work that you've gone through, you see these completely different children at the end of it. So it's a really, really rewarding and valuable experience. So enjoy it, and it is really good fun. You never have a dull moment working with children, that's for sure. Okay, we're going to go on to kind of working on the robots, but I appreciate this very quick because I wanted to spend more time building than kind of talking. So are there any questions about what it means to be a mentor or how to kind of get started on it? No, okay. Just to mention that after today, Lizzie will be in touch with all the resources that we've said we're going to share after today. But also, if you want to be a mentor, we need a bit more info, like if your DBS checked, like your time availability, that kind of thing. So she'll share around a link for you to register your interest to be a mentor. So if you do want to do that, please complete that information. And obviously, we can support you along that way. But once you sign up to say, I'm interested in mentoring, essentially what Lizzie will do is go, right, you're based in Bristol, for example. I've got some schools based in Bristol, and she'll introduce you via email to start that conversation, start that relationship. So it will be us introducing you, but then down to you and the school to start that relationship going forward.